The circumstances he presents in this portion of his latest film really struck out home because I could relate personally to the environmental impacts
you see
he's
this
talking
curtain
about.
of green with occasionally birds in it, and you think it's perhaps okay. But if you get in a helicopter, you see that that is a strip about half a mile wide, and beyond that strip there is nothing but regimented rows of oil palms.
Today is Saturday, November 21st. I believe the future inheritance of our planet will want to hear what we have to say. While I don't speak for everybody, I need to say this before so much has changed. So whatever the year is, 2120, this is my statement. I see people struggling every day with what to say or who to say it to. I'll just say what I feel to wherever the vibrations ring to. I hope that's you. This is the state we're living in. We still remember when the price of air was free. Then it went up to $1.50, metaphorically. Free just means the actual costs aren't seen. Nothing is free, not even the air we breathe. It costed millions or billions of previous inhabitants energy. Our breath of air that went around the world, through the roots of trees and back out its leaves. Unfortunately, in 2020, we still weren't taught how to put the bigger picture into perspective. We didn't know there were more particles of air in each breath than there are breaths of air on your planet. Or that there are more molecules of water in each glass we're pouring than there are glasses of water in all the world's oceans. We are realizing if our planet was just a little warmer, the Earth would have just water vapor. Notice the second half of this sentence. I took the humans out of the equation. I'm just saying we're not that tough, we're lucky, and it's amazing. 2020, this was our home. We haven't even imagined your existence. In whatever year it is.
Certainly a large burden of that, but also there will be a surprise outbreak.
Coronavirus is not just fatal, it's gone viral. The media of the last year has turned to unfortunate circumstances in our lives as persuasions in these presidential elections. We all have problems, and our problems are not the same as CNN.
I always see this sort of thing on YouTube, and you don't think
Upon further inspection, I wonder if the solution is worse than the problem. The Earth supports 7 billion people. We really have to be careful. Our Earth is gorgeous, yet we consume a lot of resources. It's not the land we're utilizing, it's the land we left dying. Powers that be never let a good tragedy go to waste, and then they make us cover our face. 2020 in a nutshell. We put people first, which made sense. Like Darwin said, it's survival of the fittest. We accepted this and molded it into a strategy where we eliminated all our competition. Then we utilized our land and co-inhabitants. It's somewhat blasphemous how we convinced animals and plants to breed how we want, where we want, when we want, and then we mutilated them. We did away with a lot of randomness. When they couldn't breed for our reason, we artificially inseminated them to achieve things that nature couldn't. And when we couldn't perform this, we took their DNA and manipulated it. We created order in what we perceived as chaos. Trees are tough. Trees were tough, but not in the face of Homo sapiens' ambitions. We couldn't hear the Earth's seasons. We didn't realize it was like the Earth's heart beating. We released a lot of carbon and greenhouse emissions. We wanted to be perceived as greater than we truly were, and we did it with material possessions. We harnessed the power of the dead. We called them fossil fuels for a reason. We were unaware of our place in your world. We hadn't been taught much about coevolution. We loved the bees. We knew they were important. But everything else that stings was a nuisance, so we killed them. We didn't realize that wasps were natural pest control and native trees and plants were pollinated by them. We loved the butterflies, but the moths around our lights were a nuisance. We cleared the land, but hey, we were planted. We saw some beauty in nature, but we always bought our plants based on uniqueness and made the purchase of foreign plants because we never seen them. Plants were just another material possession, just like the land we bought, which were really our ecosystems chopped into sections. Then we saw damage on our bread for unrealistic, aesthetically pleasing organisms. And we felt something in our heart. These plants struggled because our climate was different. These plants weren't native. We wasted our money and nurseries kept growing new ones to replace them. When our plants came from overseas, they had their own natural pests on them. Over here, those pests had no competition. This resulted in more plants with even more damage. The pests found new hosts in many of our natives. And these pests had a heyday until they finished off countless more important than we realized natives. We could have done more to preserve your Earth. We just ignored all the science and blamed totally separate problems on scientists. When we look into the forest, trees like the American chestnut, the red bay, and ash tree are now missing. We might as well say we lost them. I think we made it this far because we have great reactions, yet clearly we have a problem being proactive. We try to put a band-aid on the problem by crossbreeding our almost extinct trees to more resilient non-natives. We altered their DNA and chestnuts actually became more resilient. Now, we still have something similar to the American chestnut, but in the time gap we lost the majority of this keystone species, and unfortunately we lost all the ivory-billed woodpeckers because the fat and the dependably late blooming chestnut was what allowed this woodpecker to survive over the winter. Our native trees had no defense against them. The non-natives like Brazilian pepper, coral ardesia, and bamboos took over. Here was the best environment because they now had space with no competition. Big agriculture, the monocrops, the masses, sprayed pesticides on many of our products so that way they could keep the bugs down. In turn, when an eagle sat on its egg, the weight of its own body cracked it. We didn't know what we were doing. We did a lot to take care of our people. But we put the earth through so much hell, Passion of Christ needs a sequel. It's easy to see how this is like a downward spiral, but our message to the future of humanity is supposed to be empowering. Now let's get empowered. Somebody's got to speak out. We have to say our feelings out loud. As of this moment, we're becoming more aware of our place in this world. We realize that many things have changed over the course. Also, we have been given the opportunity to see the seeds we sow grow into beautiful and majestic creatures. And in many cases, the seeds we sow have made an actual difference. This poem ain't over, wait a minute. Remember when those whales were trapped in prison? Conservationists forced Russia to release them. A decade ago, humpback whales were near extinction. Now their population is increasing. Mountain gorillas were down to just 480 individuals, and in 6 years they're showing signs of recovery. China alone has 1.4 billion people. In the 70s there were only as few as 1,000 giant pandas left in existence. 30 years later, their population increased by 80%. And the World Wildlife Foundation adopted the giant panda as its logo. $140 million were invested to protect the Peruvian Amazon. In 2019, the world's largest efforts to clean up plastic from our oceans is underway. But this year alone, 2020, for the first time, one of the rarest gorilla subfamilies thought to be extinct, the Cross River gorilla, was photographed by the Wildlife Conservation Society. Wild bison were introduced to the UK for the first time in 6,000 years. The pangolin, a completely vulnerable mammal blamed for the zoonotical jump of the coronavirus to humans, has finally been given the highest protection and taken off the list of Chinese medicine. Researchers declared 2,500 square miles of coral reefs in the Red Sea as a World Heritage Site. China, Kenya, and Botswana partnered to stop wildlife trafficking. Like I said, some things we do can make an actual difference.